We're live. Hi, guys. Wow, it's so good to be back. Um, as I'll shake the nerves in a minute. Give me a second. It's really exciting to be back, but I still get nervous. So first of all, I truly I just want to say thank you for watching because I don't know. I like doing this, and it's truly exciting, like I always say, but it's nerve-wracking, and it makes me feel better when I know that people are watching and listening because it is a gigantic message to get out. So thank you, first and foremost, to Hashem, the Creator, for allowing me to humbly present this message. I don't ever want anybody to think I'm coming here not being humble. I truly am, even if I goof around. And the message that I'm here to give isn't just about the investigation. It's from the Creator and about the Creator. And automatically, even myself in the past, if someone came to me and started talking about how they know the Creator personally and they have this and this and this to share with me, and then, hey, also it's Prince Rogers Nelson because I met him when I died. If somebody came to me and told me that, I think they might be a little bit off. But then as they got to know the truth, and you hear the truth, and you watch these videos, you will come to understand why. And especially after I get some things out today, because like I always say, when I get to come here and share with you guys, I always get more messages as well from the Creator. So I just wanted to say that through my prayer time and watching my rabbi and different things like that, I get messages too, and I have to implement them into my life. So by coming here and acknowledging the things that I hear, soul hearing, I call it soul hearing because it's not an actual voice. It's just the knowing. It's the knowing. It's inner knowledge. It's inner knowing, and some telepathy as well. I think style stuff going on in there. That's our special thing. But how else is the Creator supposed to talk to somebody? Call them up on the phone? Just saying. So, throughout my life, I just learned to listen to that voice. And it's like, like I said, it's like the biggest imaginary friend in the world, except for it's not imaginary. And anyway, what I was saying is I appreciate your patience. I have to acknowledge who I am, you guys. I think it's a tougher sell for my family and friends, if I had any. Saying, hey, this lady hears from God. She talks with him and he tells her these things, and it all has to do with this big plan. But you guys, a lot of you don't know me, and so maybe it's easier to perceive that way. And I hope that it is, because if I don't acknowledge that about my soul and the way that I can hear, some people are going to think I'm crazy. Some aren't. You see the color changes. I can see them around me too, and it makes me giggle. But mostly, I want you guys to know that I don't consider myself anything special. But if I do not acknowledge the things that are happening, that's like kind of like lying about the Creator, lying to him, or, lying by omitting. And so it's not always easy to say, but I'm going to spit it out, doggone it. That the reason that these things that I tell you guys, aside from the investigation, the Pi investigation itself, all the Hebrew and the gematria and the different things that I study, I moved my books over here. It's kind of in progress. But anyway, all of those things have not been heard before, because when I was there in the heaven place with him in 2010, and he told me these things were going to happen and he was going to die, but he had to do something with all the knowledge. And because I was the listener and the one that he trained me up to be this way, just like he trains us all up to have a purpose in our life. It's just that mine was wrapped up in the music from 13 and on, and then from 22 and on, and trying to find God, and then eventually finding him. So You guys have to know that about my channel. Okay, first and foremost, Hashem, God, the creator, Prince Rogers Nelson, the sustainer. It's him. And if I don't acknowledge that I can hear from him and come here and tell you this, because by me saying that, you guys, it's not to be anything other than I need you to start listening to me because he sent me. And we're like two of the same. I mean, that's what he told me. And so here I am. So I want to say that because it makes me feel lighter. But it's a big deal, you guys, because he told me in my life after life that the reason, I think, to the best of my memory, that the information couldn't be told by other ancestors and ancient peoples is because, I mentioned it before, because they had a desire of their own to have the words or something. I'm not sure what failed or how the trick went over, but my only desire is to share with you guys and to show you what he showed me, because obviously he's him and he planned it this way. And you know, I'm doing my best. I'm only human. I appreciate you listening to the ramble. Now that we're 6 minutes in, it's not really a ramble, but you could use a little thing on the bottom to fast forward if you want. I want you guys to start listening, and I want you to share the videos with people that you know, because the other thing that I remember is in my life after life, when he was telling me that every soul, every creation for a purpose, their story is going to be told. And this is just my story, his story, our story. And contractually, he could only say so much, but also I recollect that he told me too about himself that he was very shy in a way like that and didn't believe in himself in a certain way. And I want to be careful what I'm saying because I want to be respectful, but there was that aspect of always being people always surrounding you and attempting to bring you low and break you down, when that's all that's around you and that's all you ever see in your camp. You know what I mean? Paisley Park camp, and then also in the world around you as the creator, and all you see is people failing you and each other on a daily basis. You can imagine it causes a lot of pain. So I want to bring the joy back to him, and I hope that you do too. And by sharing this information and really believing that it's real, and I wouldn't come here to be a crazy person. I got to be a little crazy, but that's cool. Anyway, you guys got to start sharing it, okay? And don't be embarrassed of it. If you feel something in your soul that feels real, why the music sounded the way it did to you, whatever the case may be. The world is trying to make us forget, and I'm not going to let that happen. So let me take a swig, and we'll move on to Paul what's his name? Pudlitzke? Sorry. Pudlitzke, Paul Pul6itzke, which is PP, which is interesting too. If you're not familiar, all the pages that I'm always talking about, all the files that are available online, the 214 pages, there's at the end of the file of Prince Rogers Nelson, and then Prince and Prince Nelson and all the different things that we talk about, there's another file, and it's the file on the realtor, former Glam Slam manager, Paul Pul6itzke. Now, Paul worked for Prince from 90 to 94 as the Glam Slam manager. And then minor research tells us that he went on to be a realtor and owned a house that, and this is the important part if you're not listening, in the 214 pages that are available online that Carver County put out for us to look at, although I've done a lot of research and have a lot of other files as well. Pardon. That cough just won't leave. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. the files within the 214 pages are like the ICR number is always starts with a 16. One of them is 1612559, or it's 16012, and then it goes up to 3 zeros. Okay, I know that's not truly interesting, but the point is the file that is 16000, that file, line 304, says, and I'm going to show you, please listen to how it reads. It says, Paul Pul6itzke drug overdose in Minnesota. I'm reading right from the file. On 1/9/16, I learned about a fentanyl overdose that occurred in Minnetonka on June 18th, 2016. In case you missed that, on 1/9/16, this officer, and I believe it's Wagner, learned about the overdose that occurred on June 18th, 2016. And I'm going to show you that. You can say, yeah, it's just a misprint. But as we know, this whole file is cut and pasted, and I think that's pretty important. So let's take a look. At the top, it says, and this is what I'm talking about, as you go on and you read the file, you see font changes and so forth. How could an officer learn about an overdose on 1/9/16 that occurred on June 18th, 2016? Just saying. You know, my daughter said to me when I told her that the Prince Rogers Nelson identification on the Hennepin County paperwork was wrong, you know, that they have the ID starting with the last name R, which would make the name Prince Nelson Rogers or Prince Rogers. But she was like, well, you know, one time I got arrested and they did my ID wrong. And I said, yes, dear, but, you know, all the cutting, pasting, this and that and that. This just further goes to show that this file is cut and pasted, the one file that Jim Olson said they would leave no stone unturned. So, kick rocks. Anyway, this Paul Pul6itzke file, you guys, is my point is this. I'm not going to read everything. I took a bunch of notes on it for you, so you don't have to. When I first read it, I thought, what's the point? And it's taken me, a while to put it together. Now, aside from that, throughout the file, they say that the fentanyl in Paul's file, and I also think that it's interesting that his name, PP, is the same as Paisley Park. And I'm going to cut right to the chase with what I'm saying instead of making you guess. I think people appreciate that. I gather this from my research. This file of Paul is a file, and I'll tell you the details in a moment, that I would assume, playing a lawyer on YouTube, that it's the precedence that they were looking for in order to not to claim they didn't know where the fentanyl came from. Therefore, one, it was investigated as a crime, and then they couldn't say where the fentanyl came from. That was the outcome of this file. So what I'm saying is they had this thing planned because obviously the dates are wrong. And then after they present this file, which is labeled 875CW, but at the top of it in the right-hand corner, it's written 160122259. And you can see where they're presenting these facts of Paul to use in the 16012 file. That's how they do it. But there's more to it. Always is more. So anyway, hold on. Let me get my train of thought back. These are the notes that I took. They said in this file that the fentanyl was mixed with a powder substance, cocaine, and not in pill form, as in the case with Prince. And that's the way the file reads, Prince. It never says Prince Rogers Nelson, just Prince, always, or Mr. Nelson or whatever. But what's interesting about that is in the PI investigation, it was shown that Prince Rogers Nelson didn't have any pills in his stomach. Okay, there was 67.8 whatevers per mcgs per milliliter of blood, but there was no pills in his stomach. So for them to say that the fentanyl that PP Paul Pul6itzke died from was mixed and not in pill form, such as the case with Prince A, is wrong. But I'm going to keep going. And I wrote, these are my notes. Not only is this file clearly dated wrong, the writer based assumption of them, and DEA didn't even get involved until late May. Excuse me. Now listen, DEA Voller on 1/25/17 said that no other fentanyl deaths in pill form in or around Minnetonka, Minnesota, whatever, or he would have been notified. Okay, let me tell you what that means. If you have the DEA investigating this whole file and they want you to believe that all these pills were found, which we've already discussed and we know the truth, but the media wants you to believe that all these pills were found around the house and everything like that, and that Prince died of 67.8. But get this, no other people in or around the area that were like, of all of those, and go back and look at the statistics that I talked to you about, the 2015, 2016 safe script statistics. What I'm saying is, if there was an issue with fentanyl laced hydrocodone, which was a very popular pill at the time, other people would have been dying, you guys. And that's something that I don't know if everybody really takes the time to stop and think about. I really didn't. But first of all, it wasn't in pill form. Okay, it was just a huge overdose, or there would have been pills in the stomach, and they said that there wasn't. Second of all, he would have been notified if there was any other pill deaths. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Like I said, which means the RX pills, in my philosophy, they were being specifically manufactured for Paisley Park purposes. Like I said, as well as having the prescriptions written to homeless people, who we'll get to the witness list here in a minute, which is what they did, allegedly. Anyway, listen, they said Paul's was mixed with white powdery substance, as was found. Now listen, at Paisley Park, there was a white powdery substance found under the cupboard in the bathroom, as well in the bottom of a trash bag, I believe, with where the change of clothes were, that they said were in Prince's size. These things they don't talk about on the media. But anyway, line 305 goes on to say that they shut down pill presses in California, and that they would have the pills in the case tested for the quantity to match what they were going to do was take the pills from the pill presses they knew about in California, which is where Howard Kornfeld is from, who gave services to Phaedra's sister via Kieran. Let's see. Kieran told me Phaedra's sister suffered from drug addiction and received treatment from Dr. Kornfeld and Recovery Without Walls. That was the connection between Recovery Without Walls and Prince. Phaedra had set it up after her sister had gone there. I also learned that Kieran was told Phaedra and Kirk was taking out garbage bags. Anyway, I just wanted to give you the connection because the pill presses were in California. And as well, on the other video, I was talking about the cases where they were getting these people shut down for doing the fake prescriptions and stuff like that. So anyway, yes, I am insinuating it. And yes, the amniophenol that comes from the hair dye, as well as from Tylenol residue, as if someone was manufacturing and would get residue on their skin. As we've talked about, you have all those options to go on as well while you're visiting PP. Anyway, this is important. So DEA Voller, you guys testified that there were no other fentanyl deaths in the area. However, Carol Pul6itzke, substance abuse expert from Minnesota, she stated there were 36 fentanyl deaths within the last year alone. That was in 2016. The documents are right here. So I'm wondering why DEA Voller is testifying, Jeff Voller is testifying that there were none, or he would know. So anyway, the basis and the foundation for the Paul Pul6itzke case was that it was self-administered and accidental. The exact same thing as what they put on Prince's death certificate. So it was also, like I said earlier, investigated as a crime. And then the file went on to say that there was no indication that Paul and Prince shared the same supplier. And this was written on 12/14/2016. How could they say on 12/14/2016 that there was no indication that they shared the same supplier, and then go on to tell us that on 1/9/16 they learned about something that happened on 6/8/16? So you see that they just can't get their stories straight. So I wanted to mention that because what I believe is that again, like I said, they did the so-called investigation on this file if it were in fact real, but I'm not done yet. This file, and I'll read it to you in a second. Let me find it. It's right here. It's this West Metro realtor dies, blah, blah, blah. It goes on to say these things. I'll show you here where it says that they found, where'd it go? This is truly interesting. Listen up, listen up. In 2016, 2017, when they were doing this investigation, I'll find it in just a minute, verbatim. 3/4 of a gallon of fentanyl seized from a home in Bloomington. Now, what's interesting about that is because Sean Powell's address, which I give somewhere else, I don't have right on rip, I should have got that, as well as the video that I talked about that the detective says on the 14th, where some Kirk, I'm not sure which one, either Sean Powell Kirk or Kirky J or Kirk Johnson or Mr. Johnson, I'm not sure. Anyway, my point is that Sean Powell's address, the one where the prescriptions were found in his name by the lady that bought his house and turned over to the police, the 3/4 of a gallon of fentanyl that was seized was also from a home in Bloomington. So let me check that out for you here, right here. One second, guys. Okay. It's not clear how Pudlitzke took the high-powered opiates. It shows it was self-administered, same manner, ruled accidental. They knew of the connection to Prince, no indication they shared the same supplier, but the law lets them go after the person who provided a drug, and that would be third-degree murder. So in Pudlitzke's case, a case for prosecution couldn't be made. So here it states the death investigation for Prince is ongoing. This was a story that was written, I'm not exactly sure when. And it says, in just last month, law enforcement in Hennepin County made the largest fentanyl bust not only the state, but the country. Nearly 3/4 of a gallon was seized from a home in Bloomington. So by golly, you guys, what do you think the chances are that Sean Powell, the mysterious bodyguard, Kirk Johnson's nephew, and the RX video from Walgreens on the 14th were in Bloomington? Okay. I've told you about all the prescriptions at Walgreens and CVS, who the media doesn't even tell us about. So don't think I'm playing. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this file other than to let you guys know that the cutting and the pasting goes on and on and on, because ask yourselves this: why would this file be contained in the Prince, other than to say all these months later that they made us wait to say how Prince supposedly died, because they had to have a precedence for, various things, although they can't get their dates straight. So anyway, the other thing I want to show you guys is this. You know how your driver's license is the first letter of your last name? When you look at these witness lists that they have on here, please take a look. Each time that you see a driver's license, for instance, this lady's name here, Demley Bland Nadro Celeste, driver's license with a Y. This other person, that one matches, does it with an L. I can't see backwards. This one's an O. They do this all through the file. They don't even take the time to match up people's driver's license. Bell, G, okay? This whole story goes on to tell about, if you're wondering what it is, it goes on to tell a sordid story about supposedly Paul dating a lady from Tinder, and her backpack was locked in a room, and he brought some other strippers home from the bar, and they did toots of coke, and then this and that and the other thing happened. And the interesting thing is, you guys, you want to take the time to read this file, because this is what I believe. I believe that the story writers, the gatekeepers, the ones who think they're funny writing these files, I think that what they do is they tell a little bit of the truth about the Prince investigation in this file. The reason that I say that is because this is in the same county, right? Hennepin, Carver. I mean, they're not too far apart, right? And these files, what I find interesting too, is these files read completely different than the other ones. They give a lot more information. They give license plates to the cars. They have information attached to it where they seized an animal. Animal control was called. So what I'm saying is there's a lot more information in some parts. So if you were doing a file on Prince Rogers Nelson, what I'm saying is all that stuff wouldn't be missing. It wouldn't be as chopped and cheesy as it really is. Anyway, I lost my train of thought, but what I wanted to mention was why I thought that they were giving bits and pieces of truth in this file is because of the way that they mention how the body was positioned. You guys, listen to how weird this sounds. I don't like doing it, but this is how they explain the guy. Pudlitzke was sitting on the couch in the living room facing east. His torso was leaned back on the couch at a nearly 45-degree angle. His head was laid back on top of the couch with his eyes closed. His face was pale in color and his mouth was slightly open. He was wearing blue jeans and a blue button-up shirt. He did not have any socks on his feet. There was liver mortis present on his feet, causing them to appear discolored. His feet were on a white towel folded in half on the floor in front of him. In order to calm Bland down, officer blah, 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 laid a blanket over the guy's body and this and that. But you might be thinking to yourself, so what, because you haven't read the file. But when you go on and you read the rest of that file, there are so many coincidences between that file and the way that it reads and the Paisley Park pictures of the scene, if you know what I mean. If you go and you look at the pictures of Paisley Park where they have the sofa and then they have like an entertainment center across from it and there's a bunch of blankets stacked up on it and then there's a blanket to the right and then there's like a little kitchen with like a looks like a vaporizer or what could be a med sense. What do you call those things you sleep with on your face? They say that this guy slept with one of those, a red mez thing on his face. There's a lot of similarities between this file and the things that could have happened at Paisley Park. And then also you guys can help me out and go back and look at the, which I'm going to do, best believe. The cars that they mentioned that came along, they have license plate numbers, and I believe they're the same plates that are in Paisley Park. So I'm going to do a lot more matching on that file. And that's not really what I came here to talk about, but it's okay. I just want to let you guys know how far it goes. That crime, that supposed crime right there too, when you go through the dates and times and everything, it says it was reported 6/18/16, even though they heard about it on 1/9. Anyway, they reported it at 8:23 a.m. on that 6/18, if you believe that story. I'll stop saying that. It says the start time was 1:30, the end time was 8:10, and it was reported at 8:23 or something like that. And then I wrote down these times would coincide with the Hennepin County crime scene investigation with Todd Turpin at 9:10 a.m. Because that, as I've talked with you guys that have seen it before, the media tells us that, Prince was pronounced dead at 10:07, et cetera, et cetera. The call to 911 came in at 9:43, but we know from the paper I don't have here, the call that came into Hennepin County crime scene investigators at 9:10 a.m. and assigned Todd Turpin to work with the other agency. So what I'm saying is if this happened at 8:23, then you could see how it would make that paperwork say 9:10 to assist another agency. And also the other Hennepin County paperwork that's in the file, it's not returned with Todd Turpin's name on it. It's returned with DeWitt Meyer's name on it because he was the one that ordered Hennepin County the second time to the second scene. If you know what I mean, Green Bean. Fun, right? Hopefully you guys can keep up. I hope I don't talk too fast. The other thing that I want to say, you guys, is something that I've said before. And that is that I find it, I don't mean anyone in any offense, but there was a young lady who was tooting coke and mixed with fentanyl or whatever. There was some, I don't mean to put anyone's names out there or anything like that, but it's in the file. Her name was Brianna Lachey, and there were some other people, and they went over to do drugs with this guy from the strip club and this and that and that. And I'd done my research. The strip club called the Executive Lounge, it's closed down now. If you go and do the GPS research and stuff, you can see where it was pretty close to Country Inn and Suites and within walking distance. So I am saying yes. I believe that they covered some of the investigation file with another investigation file to set up the precedents for no charges and really cut and pasted. And I know it sounds nutso, but hey, that's what happens when you listen closely and do your research. Anyway, Paul Pul6itzke's ID, you guys, driver's license number is truly interesting. You'll want to check this out. PP are his initials, right? Just like Paisley Park. However, when the ID that they have for him reads N80413, 413 or pi, 1916. Do you see what I'm saying here? This is not Paul Pudlitzke's file, but if you were to read this as Prince Rogers Nelson, maybe this N would make sense. And then the 8 could be looking like an E. And the way licenses read is similar to the first 3 letters of your name. So if you were to take that license number, I mean, I'm not saying it is, but hypothetically, that's what I thought. Why on earth would they give Paul Pul6itzke the wrong ID number? One that looks like Nelson Prince. Want to see it again? Go look at your ID and write the number down. First 3 letters of your first name. Excuse me, take your last name. First 3 letters. First 3 letters of your first name. And so on, and then see if it works. However, it's not going to be mismatched with the wrong letter. I can guarantee you that. That only takes place in the Prince Rogers Nelson death investigation. No stone unturned. Anyway, Brianna Lachey, the young lady, unfortunately, ended up in the hospital. And I'm not sure if she passed it. They didn't say in the file. God forbid. But what I mean to say is during the time that 2020, I Can't Breathe, what was his name? George Floyd. George, as we've discussed. I don't have to explain that again, do I? And then around that time, there was a young lady. I can't remember her name, but I want to say it was Brianna. What I mean to say is I think they dispose of certain people and then by media ways give shout out to their names and be like, hey, I'll, just like, Sandy Hook, and, you pay the whole town of Maine to change their ways, and stuff like that. Hopefully that won't get me banned because that's just my opinion. Anyway, what I want to say is I wrote down the similarities. I didn't mean to go on and on about this, but I think it's pretty important. Some of the similarities. This guy, he was cold and motionless at 8:23 and pronounced dead at 8:30. Between the crime scene photos, the couch, kitchen area blanket, like I mentioned. Now, this is kind of cool too, you guys, because in this file, Paul's, they said that the TV was off and the stereo was on. Now, what's interesting to me about that, because I've read the whole file, is if you watch the Jim Olsen press conference, there's a press person that asks him, was there any music playing at Paisley Park when he got there? And I just thought that was a strikingly odd question. And then Jim Olsen said he wasn't sure, he didn't think so or whatever. But for somebody to ask that, and then for this PP file to note that the stereo was on, which would be more like, Prince Rogers Nelson, because that man never watched TV. He even sang about it in the live version. What was it? I just was listening to it last night. Talking about come by in the hotel. He's going to give her, it was the ride or one of those, give her what you need. And he said he's just going to be trying to read. And what's, you guys, in the file, they want you to believe that while they were investigating Paisley Park, that there was a remote on the bed and the TV was on and a tube of lipstick on the table with some cough drops. So just saying. Television, skagazines, and spelling. Do you think he was watching TV? No, he's coming to my channel to watch Big White Rabbit because she's beginning to talk. And isn't it fun? Gotta make it fun for me. I hope it's fun for you. Oops. Anyway, so also there's a Cpap machine, blue and white, in the bedroom photos, in the kitchen by the paper towel. Now, if you follow my Facebook or Pride Piper Facebook page, you'll see where I have shown that there has been evidence compromised, because one of the pictures shows this blue and white vaporizer Cpap machine. I'm not sure what it is, but it's next to a bunch of junk on the counter, like misplaced vitamins and this and that and that. But in the other picture, it's next to a roll of paper towel, and there's no vitamins and all this other stuff. So the stuff was placed there, just like the potpourri bowl and the other things. After they shredded documents, why not? Anyway, they went on to say that as they were investigating this, that there was glasses in the kitchen with liquid in them, not pop, not alcohol, not beer, just liquid, which was interesting because that's what they called the liquid at, that. So just some similarities. And then I went on to write the Executive Lounge was a strip club that was by Country Inn and Suites, that they brought the people back, that they had Michelob, and that they tweaked out, and then they wrote down their license plate numbers to go investigate. But the reason, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I just wanted to let you guys know that that is how deep the shady stuff goes and the cover up goes in the file. You know what I'm saying? I want to get into the other stuff. It's pretty deep. It'll make for 2 different videos. I should probably put it on 2 different videos. I don't know. You guys can always fast forward. I used to come here and, try to set everything out perfectly. I'm kind of like that, but it makes me nervous to try to keep up with myself, I think. But I do want to discuss a couple things with you that are real meaningful and that I touched on the brief snippet that let you know I was ungrounded.